Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.
10 years ago, Unbound began the life-changing work of combating the scourge of human trafficking in Central Texas and literally around the world. Joining me now, founder and executive director Susan Peters, who first became aware of this really on an international basis and then realized it was a problem at home. And Sheriff Parnell McNamara, who is globally recognized with the efforts that the McLennan County Sheriff's Office has done in combating human trafficking. You are two of my favorite people, you know that. And so this is so much fun as we're christening this brand new set. And I'm just so glad that you could carve out a little time for us today to talk. A lot of things happening, Susan, since we spoke last, maybe over a year ago.
Yeah.
You've got a brand new house to help the victims. Let's start off, just talk about that, the new thing.
Okay, well, like you said, it's our 10-year birthday, which is super exciting, and so excited for what the work that we've been able to do. Through our offices across Texas, just last year we saw 439 victims. So you can imagine there's just a lot of work to do, and so we really focus a ton on prevention, getting in schools before kids, trying to keep anyone from this happening. We have advocates that respond to crisis 24/7 to engage with trafficking victims with our law enforcement partners and then walk alongside them for recovery. But we have not had a place to put them. It's very difficult. There are very few safe homes for these children that have been trafficked. So we're opening our very first home, and it'll open this summer. Just started our house director on Monday, and so it's called the Reagan. And we're really excited. It'll house 6 children ages 12 to 18. That have mostly for foster children who have been sexually exploited, but also open to community kids if it needs to be.
Now, is this a safe house where you're not broadcasting the location of it? This has been a community effort, though, you tell me. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars to get this up and going, but so much
It's a very
help.
expensive home. That's why there's not very many. And then when they open, they shut down. But our community, as the sheriff will tell you, is so supportive. And I mean, we had from the builder from Motex that gave the house to people who, the sheetrockers, to the insulators, to the HVAC by Evergreen. I mean, people have really come together to support it, and the communities continue to help us financially to get this off the ground. So we're very excited about it.
Well, it's an amazing thing now for these young people who have been abused in this way. Sheriff, your office is globally really recognized for what you've been able to do. And we've talked about this before, where, it's like, it's don't go to Waco for trafficking because they're going to pop you.
Well, that's the point we're trying to get across. Yeah. And some of these people that we have arrested were shocked to find out that they were in McLennan County. Yeah. And they told us, if I'd known that that's where I was, I'd have kept going. But this has been an incredible effort on the part of Unbound and also the McLennan County Sheriff's Office and all of law enforcement in this community. I'm just very proud to be part of it. And we had our trafficking unit up and running for maybe a year and a half when Susan Peters came to me and asked if we wanted to be on the team, and I said, absolutely. I mean, I was honored that we were asked to be part of that, and I think the main thing that is so cool or so good about this effort, from a law enforcement standpoint, we can rescue these women. We can get them out of a situation they're in, but we can't save them. Right. Unbound saves them. And they will be with us if we get a young lady out of the trafficking. We will take them to the sheriff's office. Unbound is right there with us, and they encourage them. They debrief them. They find out all they can about them, and then they will take them to a safe house, get them out of that lifestyle. So we can get them away from the pimp or the trafficker, but we can't save them. Unbound saves them. And so it's an incredible partnership between law enforcement and Unbound. Mm-hmm. And I'm just very thankful just to be a part of it.
A lot of nuances in this. I guess when I think of human trafficking, I think of a victim, a girl that got in over her head emailing somebody or texting or whatever, and then suddenly she finds herself drugged and, gone. And then there are some who they think this is their only means of surviving.
Right.
And so trying to negotiate, those differences.
Right. I mean, traffickers take advantage of those vulnerabilities, whatever they are. If it's, convincing them that they have no other means of support, they don't have a sense of belonging because they have no family or any kind of, like, they're a runaway. Recently we had a boy that Detective Scaramucci was able to get the trafficker and charge the trafficker, and we were able to serve him. And, he's doing the investigation as far as detective and getting so many buyers. It's just unbelievable. But the support that our advocates have been able to give to help support that person, get them back on track with their education, get them in safe placement, that's a long process. That healing process is really long. But what brings closure and healing is when the perpetrators are held accountable, which is what they work really hard to do, and we can communicate that. And then we're able to say, hey, your hard work, let me tell you how well the survivor is doing now. It's a win-win.
Yeah, I remember when I was reporting news, we'd get a call from the sheriff's office, and and it wouldn't be 4 or 5 people who'd been arrested. It would be like 15 or 70. I mean, it was the numbers are daunting, really.
They really are, and to go back to when we first got involved in it, it's sort of an interesting story. Detective Scaramucci came to me with this idea. Joe
Great
Scaramucci.
Guy. Yeah.
And he is simply the best of the best.
Yeah,
There's nobody in this country as good as Joe. I mean that. He's been all over the world. They've been to Mongolia with Susan and Joe. Y'all were an incredible team training Mongolian police to go after the trafficker and not the trafficked person, the victim. Don't victimize the lady 2 times.
One more time.
And so, but he came to me in October of 2014, 8 years ago, and he's had this idea that what do you think about him going online, posing as an underage girl or 2 girls looking for action, see what kind of response, but underage. I said, sure, give it a try. Within the first 12 hours, there were over 100 and some odd applicants to have sex with these kids, 15, 16-year-old girls. So we picked 20 of the worst, what we thought would be the worst. So we arrested 20, lured them in, arrested them, threw them in jail. Well, the media got involved, and of course it was a new deal, a new angle on law enforcement for me. And so they started calling, and it was the San Antonio Post-Dispatch called, and word just spread. And I said, they said, tell us what happened. I said, it was like every kind of weird sicko came out of the woodwork. Oh, that's a good way to put it. Well, I didn't realize it, but it went nationwide. All the headlines across the nation were Texas sheriff arrests 20 weird sickos. And so, do you remember that? And so I thought, good God, I better keep my mouth shut, because I was fixing to call them a lot worse. And so
that was the PG version. Or
that was a
was
a PG version. But I was so incensed that these lowlifes think it is cool to come out. And so then 3 months later, we did another sting. We got 29, then we got 40 and 44. It got up to where when we would do these stings, we got up to 70 or 75 in a 3-week period. That's how long the stings would last. And it was overwhelming, the number of predators that we were arresting. And so we haven't let up on them. We're still going strong. Joe is out there working today. He never lets up, but he has been all over the country and the world. He's worked with, I think, Nigerian police. He's been at the Super Bowl in Tampa, Florida. He was invited down there by Tampa police, come down and help us because pro sporting events attract these traffickers.
Yes.
And so he was there. Then he was in Colorado for the All-Star game. He's been in Washington, D.C., all over the country. Mm-hmm. And so I'm so proud of him and proud of Unbound. And it's just the effort is not stopping and not letting up. But that's kind of how it got started, just on a whim. Let's see if this will work. And these predators, a lot of them just can't help themselves. They're just absolutely...
You would think hearing these stories and with the numbers of arrests that are happening,
you would think
they would pause and go, maybe I shouldn't answer this. This might be a
to
investigator
show you how,
Scaramucci.
Absolutely,
but they don't. I mean, it's
We were watching a motel one night, and the predators were coming in. They'd already arrested like 4 or 5, and so we see this truck circling, and they'll always hit their brakes right in front of the room, trying to get up courage. He was in a brand new pickup, and I thought, we need to take that guy down if he stops and goes in. And of course, we've got our SWAT team guys, Joe and them, waiting in the room. There's not a pretty girl in there, believe me. Just ugly guys. And
sometimes I'm in there.
Well,
that's right.
That's
right. There's your exception.
Let me. I'm sorry.
Well, because
I wasn't talking about the time you were in the room. No, she is.
But she is at the ready.
She is. She's there
when there are
and so when there's
victims,
a female victim involved. Absolutely. So this is how crazy it gets. One guy goes in, and they try to grab him. He takes off running, runs right down toward us, and this is all in the dark behind the motel. So there's a big scuffle in the grass, and I've got my red and blue lights on. Well, the guy in the pickup, he takes off, and he's gone. And obviously a police operation and so forth. So we arrest the guy, take him to jail. We've got a team there that they come driving around. We put him in the car after he's processed, and they take him to jail. So we get back in possession in the dark. Scaramucci texted us and said, "You're not going to believe this. The guy is coming back." He got all the way to West, and then he texted Joe, who he thought was the prostitute and the girl in the room, and says, "Are the cops still there?" And so he texted. He says, "No, they're gone. Come on back." Here he comes back to the same room where the fight started, and we nail him. And we've got a guy on Friday night. He bonds out on Saturday. He's back at the same motel and gets rearrested on Monday. I mean,
that's a sickness.
Yeah,
it's just a mental,
it absolutely is. So
sickness.
Just when we think we've seen everything, and some of these predators are so bad and so sick. They want kids, real young kids, and probably shouldn't have gotten off on that. But that.
Well,
what we deal with is
it is a scourge. I've used that term many, many times. Yeah. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to hear more about some of the accolades that, Susan, you have received, a big one from Baylor University. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
I was born in Michigan, but I was raised in Richardson, Texas. We have 5 children in our family, and my twin and I are the youngest. No one in my family went to Baylor, but I had high school friends that came to Baylor, and I came with them and absolutely fell in love with it. I was raised by a single mom, so we didn't have the finances for me to go, but an alumni and a donor to Baylor actually made a way for me to come the summer before my freshman year so that I could really get adjusted. And with the support of the faculty and then the financial aid office, I was able to be very successful. Honestly, Baylor was a trajectory changer for me. Prior to traveling internationally, being exposed to the human trafficking, I really had no radar for human trafficking and was absolutely shocked that every time I went into a country, that's what I was seeing. And so that had never been on my radar, never thought I would do that area of ministry, but was so burdened over time that felt like I have to do something about it. And so that's when everything changed and we started Unbound. It's been amazing to see God bring highly skilled, passionate people to join the efforts of Unbound, from our directors to our advocates, which are amazing, the finance people, the people training in schools. That's so important because we want to get into the schools and to be able to do prevention so kids can know how to stay safe on social media, which is how they're getting lured away. I thought we would do more international human trafficking work. And then I met my first 14-year-old American victim. And she was just a student, talked about the girls that were being held in apartments. And as she told me her horrific story, she said, "We didn't think anyone cared this was happening to us." And I was like, we care, we just didn't know. And so we really turned the corner there and said, we've got to focus on what's happening in our own communities with these American kids that are being trafficked, and then build out a model where we can expand from there and then do international work. We see children that are trafficked by their parents for drugs or for rent. We see young teens that are exploited by gangs for revenue or from a pimp in the street, and most of the time online, young men and young women both. Just knowing that we have a model that is absolutely rescuing lives and being able to walk with them to get them restored, we want to do that more. I can get a little emotional about it. I think, you get in the work and you just do it because it's the right thing to do. And so I think the award is, you don't even think about that. You just do the next thing. But when you stop and say, hey, here's an award that the community and my university that I love so much is recognizing that it matters, it just means a lot. And it means a lot to our team.
And welcome back. We're talking with Susan Peters, who is the founder and executive director of Unbound Waco, which has done an amazing work in saving people from human trafficking. And Sheriff Parnell McNamara, who's the Clinton County Sheriff's Office, has also done globally recognized work in trying to stop this. Again, trying to stop the demand that's just seems almost impossible.
It really is, and some of it is so blatant you can't believe it. One of our worst cases was going on catty-cornered from the sheriff's office.
Oh, my goodness.
Right across the street. And a young lady in her 20s and her 15-year-old daughter were being basically held hostage at the apartments, which is the old Waco High, right catty-corner from the sheriff's office. Yeah. And so one of the young girl got word to us what was going on, and the trafficker would not let but one of them leave at a time under threat that if they told the police, he was going to kill the other one. And so we raided that guy with some of our SWAT guys. It was a hard raid, and he had beaten this woman, broken her jaw, and abused her daughter, and literally just a nasty rat. Had him living on a mattress on the floor, and so we were able to send him to prison and rescue those two young ladies and turn them over to Unbound, and Unbound saved them. And most of these people that are being trafficked don't want to be there. I mean, it's a low-down scumbag life that they're forced into. But I know you remember that case very well. Yeah.
Well, Susan, you have done so much work in helping to, I think more than 10,000 area young people have been informed about what to look out for, as well as educators and parents and so forth. It has to be the most helpless feeling, though, for a parent to begin to suspect something's going on with their child. And it could be boys or girls. I mean, we think about just girls being prostituted, but it's not.
Yeah, and that's why we find the importance of the work going into the schools, into the juvenile detention centers, group homes, just with the message of what the traps of a trafficker are, social media safety, the addictive components of pornography and how that feeds in, because you see a lot of sexting that's a big issue in schools. And so they can be blackmailed into trafficking. I mean, there's just so much. And so really, we have been absolutely invited into the schools, and we're at just over 40,000 students in Central Texas that we've educated. We just had a grant that we have in the Fort Worth Independent School District. Well, we'll educate 170,000 students in the next 3 years. So
fabulous. Yeah.
Schools are just saying, hey, we want to be on the front end of how to protect
They
the
need to
students.
be.
And they've been very receptive to that, and it's very important work. But I also want to say the sheriff is such a leader in this. And, you know, law enforcement in old school days, didn't typically work with social service agencies like ours. But because of this, in recovering young girls, boys, and young women, they just recognize that. And sheriff was the first really to say, hey, we've got to do something creative outside the box. And now we've been able to replicate that in every city and around the world. We demonstrated that in Mongolia. We're looking to go to Indonesia this year. You know, so what he's done to think outside the box and to really do a holistic approach has been really impactful for so many people.
I'm sure you've got just lots of individual stories of children who have been redeemed, basically their lives saved, literally. Anything you can share with us, just off the top of your head?
There's so many. As I said, we had 439 victims.
Just this last year?
Just this last year across our Texas offices. And so I just had the Texas directors here. And so the last hour, I'm like, okay, let's just share stories. Why do we do this work?
Yeah.
It's hard work. We have to raise so much money to do it. We have to figure out so many systems. And then you hear the stories. And, you know, like one of our offices had 3 girls, 6 to age 11. That's mother trafficked them right at the border, this side of the border, in a construction zone. For 2 years, they were out of school. And they were able to get to safety in the city that we served them in. And our team, I mean, just absolutely went full stop. They got teachers to come in and educate the kids, get them caught back up so that they could be integrated back in school the next year, therapy, all kinds of things. And now they're thriving and recovering. And so, you know, so many stories like that. We had another girl this was one that we love, that the trafficker got 12 consecutive life sentences for trafficking 15-year-old in our community. And the whole community came around and supported her. And I mean, every week we're serving survivors, so there's hundreds and hundreds of stories, but it makes it worth it, you know, to see them get their life back. The recovery's slow, and, you know, we had 2 young boys that we got this last year, and we're able to get them in our community at a safe location, support them to get their high school education, then get them into transitional living. I got the biggest smile where he got his driver's license, you know, we're all like, yes, you know, and just, you know, had to pay their rent a few times, keep working with them to balance that work and add those skills. And now they're living independently and doing really well. So it's so worth it.
It's got to be such a rewarding feeling for you when you look back and when you first became aware of the problem.
Right.
Then you were not even in the country, right? You were out of the country and thought, oh, well, this is just something that happens in these other places, and then realized what a huge problem it was right here in Waco, Texas.
That's right. Yeah, so I traveled internationally, and unfortunately there's laws in every country against human trafficking, but it's everywhere. And I did think we would do more international, but like you said, when we started looking at how many ads were in our own community of young people being advertised for someone to buy them, we were like, we have to start here. And so we have both U.S. offices and international offices because it's important work.
Well, it is important work, and Baylor University had recognized that as well. You were one of several people, though, that were honored as an alumna of Baylor with the Pro Texana Medal of Service.
Yes.
And I know you don't do this for the accolades and the awards and honors, but Parnell, wouldn't you agree with me? I mean, it is
absolutely.
wonderful
Yes.
that Baylor recognized this work in such
very
a
well deserved.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And she's our shining star. She is. It's just, you know, I'm so honored just to be a part of it, and what an effort. And anyway, a lot of people's lives have been turned around and saved because of Unbound.
Well, yeah.
And so,
And with the work that you do, Sheriff McNamara, I mean, you've got to feel also, a sense of reward and pride when these folks are brought to justice.
Absolutely. And some of these people have gotten really big, tall sentences.
Yeah.
Some of them we have taken federally and taken them through the federal system to get them big sentences. Some of these predators or these sex buyers are so low down that it's hard to believe. But Joe, and he has gotten very creative at a lot of this. We even had a guy think that he was contacting a daycare worker that had kids for sale. And a 4-year-old, he wanted a 4-year-old. Then he came back and said, "That's a little too old. Do you have a toddler?"
Oh,
and this guy just
heart.
makes you sick. Guy like that doesn't even deserve to live, in my opinion. But we've got a 2-year-old. He said, "Well, I want both of them. It'll only take an hour." A 28-year-old guy shows up to have sex with a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and he went federal. And
they'll keep you a long time.
They keep you a long time,
yeah.
and you have to do almost all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're trying to do everything we can to stop the predators, and then Unbound is doing everything they can to save the victims.
Well,
so it's a
and there is though something that folks out there can do. I know through the sheriff's office you have a way for folks to report.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, there's a hotline that they can call. They can call the main sheriff's number, and then there is another line that they can call. And if they see something suspicious, it's better to call in and make sure that nothing is going on. And a lot of people say, "Well, may not be anything to it," but if something doesn't look right, it's probably not. And so we suggest that the people call the sheriff's office or the police department, some law enforcement to get involved, or they can call Unbound, and Unbound can turn it over to us because
you could be saving someone's life.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's right. We
and
had
so
a community member see a big rig on the highway that a 15-year-old it ended up was running out of, and someone reported it, and law enforcement was able to get there, and she was on the missing and exploited children list out of the Dallas area, and we were able to help her. And so it's important. If you see something, then you report it, and they'll follow it up or check it out.
Well, and more understanding by the public about the issue, which is another part of what Unbound has done so well over the last 10 years, just educating folks. And I've been happy to be a part of trying to get the word out because it's uncomfortable. It's horrible. It's not something you want to think about, but it needs to be on folks' radar. You mentioned raising money, though. You've got, tell me about the run. You've got a run coming up in April.
Yeah, so we have a 5K run we have annually. Sheriff was out there last year. We had 1,500 runners last year.
It is big.
It's big. Yeah. It's we call it it's the Unbound Chick-fil-A Light Up the Dark 5K. It's April 9th, and so it's at Cameron Park Zoo. It's really family friendly. Because we want to communicate that the whole families can get behind us. It is a scary topic, but we don't talk about that. We just light up the dark. And, it's a way for the community to come
nighttime.
out. It's at nighttime. Yeah. They can come early and feed the giraffes and pet the turtles. There's a mermaid in the tank, and then a 1K nugget run for kids, and then a 5K. So it's a wonderful family experience, but a way to really get behind us and financially support Unbound.
Well, it is such an amazing work, and I know it's going to be another wonderfully successful fundraiser for you, the Light Up the Dark on April 9th at Cameron Park Zoo. And folks need to sign up ahead of time, I guess.
unboundwaco.org, and they can sign up.
Yeah. Well, you and I have done one of these podcasts before, so you have done this, but I like to end these visits with a little questionnaire similar to the one the late, great James Lipton would use on Inside the Actor's Studio. Since we have this wonderful set, feeling even more like I'm channeling my James Lipton right now. But I'll ask you both these questions. So what is your favorite word?
Jesus.
That's a good one.
I was going to say victorious.
All right.
Jesus makes us victorious.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, Sheriff, what is your least favorite word?
That's a tough one. My least favorite word. Would you like to answer that first?
I maybe hopeless
Yeah.
is what it means.
Yeah. And what you're doing is bringing hope to people who probably at times feel like, I don't have a chance. I'm going to die in this.
Yep. My least favorite word is probably no.
Yeah.
I don't like to hear it. I don't like to say it.
Okay. Yeah. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
I think the beauty of the outdoors is what makes me feel the best. And Charlotte and I have been to the Holy Lands.
Yeah.
And so that was, I will never get over that. If you don't mind me telling you a little bit, but we stood in the valley of Elah where David slew Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
We had sunrise service on the Sea of Galilee. Went to all the places, Garden of Gethsemane. I took in every bit of that beauty, and it was the most spiritual thing. I felt his presence the whole time. We went to the room where Jesus had the Last Supper, and we walked the Via Dolorosa to Calvary, where they crucified him, stood at the base of Calvary, and looked up where all that happened. We were standing right where they hurt him so bad. And it was really hard. I get to thinking about it, and he was there. And I was thinking, I'm standing right there looking up, and have you ever been?
No, it's on my bucket
you
list
need
for
to
sure.
go,
We were
and-
supposed to go, but the pandemic
Well,
derailed us. Maybe
yeah.
next fall. I mean, that's the plan.
you really should. Anybody should. But, Calvary is also called Golgotha, which is
Right.
place of the skull.
Mm-hmm.
And you look up on it, and there's a skull in the side of I've got a picture of it on my phone. I'll show you.
Yeah.
And, I'm standing there, and I'm thinking, I'm not even worthy to stand here. And so, anyway, just the beauty of all that.
Makes you appreciate so much
It does. And,
the faith that you've lived for
yeah.
so many years.
And so, anyway, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to get off on that. but
No, I
that's-
love it. I love
it's,
hearing that from you.
Too.
It's
Yeah.
It's very moving, and there was 25 of us from Parkview Baptist Church
Yeah.
that went, and so on the Sea of Galilee, we're in this old wooden boat, just like
Yeah. You
except
can
that-
imagine what it was like.
just
yeah.
just a big wooden boat, and we're all on it, and the guide said, right there is where he made the Beatitudes. I go, what? And
That's
there
incredible.
There was
Yeah.
a period of time that I couldn't talk.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 minutes. I could not utter a word.
Just speechless.
And Charlotte was trying to talk to me, and I just,
yeah.
that's all I could do.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, I don't know what happened. And it was so overwhelming to me. And then we got baptized in the Jordan. And it just is, I'll never, ever get over it. But anyway, that's what, you asked what moves me spiritually. I think about that. And we were in Bethlehem, and we looked out, and the shepherds, they're still shepherds tending sheep.
Yeah.
Still shepherds just walking around.
Doing their thing that they did
with
for
sheep
centuries.
out there.
Yeah.
And they said that's where the wise men came over. And Charlotte said, I can't believe you cried the whole trip. I said, I did not. She said, yes, you did. I said,
You're going to get me crying right here.
I just cried
I'm supposed
half
to
the
make
trip.
you cry, right?
Just half the trip, And we're in downtown Nazareth, and somebody yells out, Sheriff.
Oh,
And
you were recognized?
Yes, and it was a group from Robinson, Texas.
Look at that.
It just, anyway, it was.
Oh,
But
that's
I don't
amazing.
know.
That's a
I
great
just,
story. Thank you so much.
But
What
you
about
must go.
you, Susan? What turns you
I-
on creatively?
You know, we built a new home 4 years ago, and it's a little bit out in the country.
Yeah, I remember seeing it
And-
on Facebook.
Yeah, and I built a prayer room,
Yeah.
and I have this beautiful big picture window, and I have my chair and my journal, my Bible, and that's my place every morning, and
Yeah.
that's my vision, refuel, connect, fuel up.
Have to
for
do
the
it every
task,
day.
yeah.
Yeah, have to do it every day. Well, then what turns you off creatively or spiritually or emotionally?
What turns me off is people disrespecting and degrading our wonderful country that we live in, burning the American flag. I've taken a hard line here. I said if burning the American flag is no longer a crime, except in McLennan County.
You better not do it.
And I said if some
Thank
low-life
you.
scumbag sets the American flag on here, we have fire extinguishers in every car. Our guys are to put them out immediately and make sure the punk that lit them up looks like the Pillsbury Doughboy when they get through with him, with plenty of white powder, and then he goes to jail for a number of violations for disorderly conduct, starting a fire without a permit, and there's all kind of things. We've got a list that we're not going to tolerate it, and that's what's so disturbing to me, that we live in the greatest country on this planet, and there are people that are not satisfied with it, and those people need to get the hell out and go over there and play around with Putin. See what happens when they burn the Russian
There's such
flag.
a lack of gratitude, really.
So
in what we have.
it is, and that's what
understanding,
disturbs
really.
me. And I can take some flack for this, but these athletes that are making $50 million a year think they're having such a tough time here. It's such a travesty that people are doing that. But that's what bothers me so bad is people that disgrace our country and don't appreciate it. And anyway,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to take up
Susan.
too much time, but I'm sorry. I probably took up too much time there. But anyway.
No, I said this is a podcast. We can go as long as we want.
I think two things. One, anytime someone is degrading a human,
Yeah.
whether it's a
Of
child,
course, yeah.
a woman, anybody, that's really challenging. And then I would say, anytime there is competition among agencies and organizations, that really bothers me, because we are so much better when we work really well together.
Oh, yes. Obviously. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys are a perfect
Even-
example.
Exactly. And when we understand each other's lanes, and we compliment and we serve and we defer and we support each other, then on behalf of those we serve, you get the best work.
Yeah.
And so when someone comes in with a different spirit or is negative or that kind of thing, that's challenging for me.
Right. Sheriff, what sound do you love the most?
Country music.
All right. That works.
Or you could say the sound of wildlife,
Yeah.
birds. I love the wind. I love the outdoors.
Yeah.
Anything to do with the outdoors, except a violent storm. I'm not
Well,
real crazy
but
about
sometimes
that,
a thunderstorm can
it can be
kind of set a mood.
But
If you're not worried about hail, coming through your
you're
roof.
asking some tough
I
questions.
know, aren't they? But Susan's already answered these
Well,
ones.
I love the sound of running water.
Yeah, I've heard that so many times from
Yes.
my
That's-
guests. They love that. What other profession would you have liked to try?
Wow. Well, when I graduated from Baylor and I had a degree in marketing and business management, 4 months later I went with federal law enforcement.
Yeah.
So I had interviewed with Colt and Winchester Firearms as a sales rep, a factory rep. And I love firearms and grew up in a law enforcement family. So I was going to be a salesman for guns.
Yeah.
And I love selling. Marketing was a good major, because it's just selling a product or selling yourself or your idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did use that all through law enforcement.
Yeah.
And but that would have been one profession. I wanted to also be a forest ranger because I would be out in the forest. And I thought about that.
I could see you doing that.
I would love that, be a Smokey Bear out there. And so, but that type of thing, I would love to do that.
Yeah. All right. Susan?
My idol growing up was Mary Kay Ash.
Oh, really?
And so I just love that she was a woman, and before her time, she led a phenomenal business that empowered so many people. And so probably something in business.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what do you know you would not ever want to do professionally?
Boy, that's... Go ahead, Susan.
I was thinking maybe a plumber.
Hey,
yeah, especially
we need them, but I don't want to do it
when it's cold weather and they're out digging in the street, and it's
yeah,
we appreciate them.
I'll have to ditto that because I tell you what, crawling under houses in icy cold weather, super hot weather, and
but we need them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You gave me the answer I was looking for.
All right. So last question: what do you want to hear God say to you when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Come on in.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well done. Yeah. You guys are both doing it well in Central Texas. I just can't thank you enough. Susan Peters, of course, the Unbound, saw a need, said, yes, Lord, what can I do? And it's become this international ministry, saving untold numbers of lives. And, of course, Sheriff Parnell McNamara, thank you so much. What you do every day as our...
I love that.
As our lawman. What is it? You've got a moniker. What is it? The nation's lawman. What is it? America's Sheriff. Okay.
Give me a break.
I love it.
Well, you're my sheriff, and I appreciate you both
I'm just
so much.
the old sheriff from McLennan County. But well, thank you very much, and it's
thank
always
you
a pleasure
for getting us started off here in this wonderful.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Ann, very much for including me, and Susan. Always wonderful working with you.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, we're not going to let up.
Yep.
We're going to keep the effort going, and I'm just proud to be a part of it. And it's been an unbelievable team.
Yeah,
really has. And thanks for asking us to be part.
Yeah.
Really.
With that good word, we say goodbye. Join us again next time.
Central Texas Life with Ann Harder is part of the Rogue Media family. Be sure to check out our other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate this show 5 stars on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.